What is up? Today we are going to be discussing my most highly anticipated fights for the remainder of 2025. I'm also going to be discussing the fights that I am least excited for, the ones that I think are an abomination to the sport of mixed martial arts. So we're basically going to be ranking all of the upcoming fights that we will probably see this year, and we're going to base it off of how hyped they are, how much we're going to be thinking about them. Some of them we're not going to be thinking about much in the buildup, but we know on the night of the fight we're going to be in for a really solid war. So without further ado, let's just get into it. The first fight that we have on this list is going to be Volkanovski versus Yair Rodriguez. I'm going to put that in the trash tier. That is a garbage fight. It belongs in the garbage. The UFC is so desperate for a Mexican champion, despite the fact that Yair Rodriguez has no hype. He's totally undeserving of a title fight, especially a rematch where he lost the first fight decisively and he got finished directly after that. He got finished twice in a row, bounced back with a win over an old Bellator debutant. And the UFC is just so obsessed with giving guys that have a win against a Bellator debut fighter title fights. It's just a disgraceful fight. They're literally just having Yair fight for a title because he's from Mexico and they just need someone from Mexico to fight for the belt, not the most deserving contenders. It's fucking pathetic. Nobody wants to see this. It's a waste of time for Volkanovski. We don't want to see Volkanovski's last year, where he may still have it a little bit, be wasted again with one of these fights that he's already had and he's already won decisively. Volk may only be good for a little while longer. Let's actually get him that tough fight where, he's going to need all his strength, all his might to be able to get past Evloev. I don't want him to beat Yair Rodriguez, age more, and then have a tough fight with Movsar. It's just a fucking waste of time. As I said, nobody wants this. It belongs in the trash tier. It's a disgrace. What a dog shit fight. Next up, we have Merab versus O'Malley. Listen, it's a trash fight. I'm sorry. It just is. And you know what? I know that O'Malley's entertaining. He's one of the most entertaining fighters in the sport. Merab is the bantamweight GOAT, but I just hate the fact that they're just desperate to get O'Malley the win. That's the problem with these fights. Written all over this is the UFC desperately wants Sean O'Malley to knock out Merab. They know that he just fought Merab and he lost, and they're just like, dude, we're just going to run this back as many times as it takes. We're going to simulate this fight as many times as it takes until O'Malley or Yair can win the belt. It just feels cheap. It feels dirty. Fuck this fight. This fight sucks. Just as much, not as much as Yair versus Volk, because O'Malley and Merab is still somewhat interesting. But O'Malley, again, just fought Merab. He just fought him. The only thing that makes this a little bit better than Yair versus Volk is that there isn't a number one contender that's just standing out a lot, right? I mean, Corey Sandhagen is there. That would be interesting. Pantoja's there. That would be interesting. But there's no Movsar Evloev in the division that's just getting totally screwed over. I really want Merab to win. And it's not because I dislike O'Malley. I think O'Malley as a champ is always entertaining, and I think that O'Malley winning would create a huge viral moment. And yes, he's a more exciting champion, but Merab is the GOAT of the bantamweight division. And I really just want to see Merab go out there every single time and just continue to create a bigger gap between him and all the other bantamweights in history. I want to see Merab climb the GOAT list, because I just think there's something about this guy that's just not that great anywhere, but just has this unbelievable gas tank, this unbelievable grit that just goes out there and breaks people. And by the time we're in the third, fourth, fifth round, he's like throwing them out of the octagon. You don't even know how it's possible. I like having a champion like that. Sure, O'Malley walking people onto right hands and left hands and knocking them out, that's great. But there's something to be said about one of these just unstoppable fighters where if you can't put them out, you're eventually just screwed. You can't even wrap your mind around how they're able to compete at such a ridiculous pace for 25 minutes. He's got that alien type of aura. I think that's more badass than O'Malley, relying on a KO in one of these fights. And again, because the UFC is so desperate to get O'Malley the title, it just makes me root for Merab that much more. And because he's recently been crowned the bantamweight GOAT by 99% of fans, I just want him to further solidify it. I like Merab. I'm done acting like, I'm saying I'm done. I've not been acting like this for a while, but back in the day, a lot of us didn't love Merab. I'm a huge fan of Merab. And you know what? This guy is entertaining these days. He had a long streak where he was having some pretty boring fights, but the Cejudo fight, the O'Malley fight was kind of boring, fair enough, but he just had an amazing fight with Umar. I want this guy to be the GOAT. I want him to beat O'Malley. I'm not going to sit there and say, well, obviously I want O'Malley to win because he's more... No. Merab as champion is more entertaining for me. And you can't tell me I'm wrong. He has an entertaining style. Against fighters that can't do anything to stuff his takedowns, he can be somewhat boring, but against the best in the world, I believe that they're always good enough to be able to test him. Like Umar, for example. Even O'Malley kind of tested him a little bit on the feet. Merab is always going to be somewhat entertaining. I want Merab as champ. So I'm rooting for Merab, but I'm just not excited because you know that there's a chance that O'Malley wins, and seeing him win the belt back, it would just feel so forced. I just hate these sort of fights where it's just like giving them these unlimited opportunities. It's pathetic. I hate it. And for that reason, I'm kind of dreading an O'Malley win. Again, I know O'Malley winning would be entertaining, but I'm dreading it. Just as I'm dreading a Yair Rodriguez when Yair wouldn't be able to hold a candle to Volkanovski when Volk is in his prime. But now, imagine if he knocks him out, how shitty that would be. Fuck that. I hate these fights. Let's get on to the next one. Jack Hermansson, man. Jack Hermansson coming back. I'm going to put this in B tier. I mean, you can only get so hyped for a Jack Hermansson fight. We're not going to act like he's Yuri Prohaska or whatever, but, he's been out of the cage for a year, coming off of that great win against Joe Pyfer, where he came back to win the last 3 rounds after being down 2 rounds. Crafty performance. Fighting Gregory Rodriguez, another big power puncher that's super dangerous, where Jack's going to have to lean on his craft. He's going to have to lean on his experience, and he's going to have to weather the storm. It's going to be, if he wins, a classic crafty performance. Let's get on to the next one. Poirier versus Holloway 3. It's okay. I don't know. I'm not feeling the hype right now. It's a good fight. That's why it's in the B tier, but I can't say I can't wait for this. Like, we've seen it before. I would have rathered have it been Holloway versus Dan Hooker and Poirier versus maybe someone else, Pimblett or something. Poirier's the only old head that I think I would be okay if that were the fight they were to give to Paddy Pimblett, just because I always say I don't want Pimblett to fight an old man. But Poirier is one of the old men in the UFC that can actually still put up a really good scrap at the highest level in the lightweight division, given what we just saw him do against Islam Makhachev. But we've seen this fight a few times. The card also sucks. If you want to check out the card on the UFC's website, that makes it even worse. Should be a good fight, but I'm kind of not that hyped for it. Let's get on to the next one. Topuria versus Makhachev, always S tier. That's as good as it could possibly get. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen next. And if it happens after Makhachev versus JDM and Topuria versus Oliveira, that probably means that Makhachev would be coming off of a loss and it wouldn't be as hyped. But right now, it's still S tier. Magomedov Ankalaev versus Pereira 2. I'm kind of dreading it, guys. Listen, I am excited for an Alex Pereira fight. I'm excited to see if he can get this one back. I do think he somewhat deserves the rematch just because he defended his belt a few times and he's such a legend of the sport. It's been forever since he's lost. But because of the speed difference, and I talked a little bit about why I think Magomed would actually be Tom Aspinall's toughest test, it's purely based on speed. Tom Aspinall's used to fighting who? Marcin Tybura, Plotty Blades, even Sergey Pavlovich. Compared to Magomedov Ankalaev, you cannot even compare their speed and their boxing skill sets. Magomedov Ankalaev just has that ridiculous speed. And we saw him speed Mag Alex Pereira, where every single time there was an exchange with punches being thrown, Magomed would beat Pereira to the punch quite comfortably. And Pereira's getting older. And I know Pereira's always training and always taking his career seriously, but I'm, seeing him drive around in these Ferraris and just enjoying life, man, enjoying the fruits of his labor, and as he should. He's earned it, absolutely, but Magomed's still young. Pereira's getting even older. I know that at light heavyweight you can do well when you're old, and some people are going to say, well, he was injured in the first fight, but there's always some little nagging injuries that these guys are going to have going into these title fights after long training camps and after long careers, but I just have a feeling the speed difference is going to be there. Pereira might get a little bit more aggressive and maybe he lands the KO, but he did not show me anything in that first fight that makes me believe that left hook is going to land. or he's going to be able to damage Magomed easily. Like, it looks like Pereira is going to really have to put himself in danger, in harm's way of those Speedy Gonzalez punch combinations in order to get the KO. And I just think if he does that, if he's more aggressive, I see him getting knocked out. I mean, he was rocked in the first fight, and it's not like Magomed's known for knocking people out. And this is the thing. When I say Magomed could be a tough fight for Aspinall, people are like, dude, who's Magomed finishing, man? He's not finishing anyone. He's not dangerous. But it's like, when people do get aggressive with him, he's so fast, he can make you pay. And if you're a light heavyweight, you will just have ridiculous power. I'm worried that Pereira is going to get KO'd. He's one of my favorite fighters. I mean, listen, I trained with Magomed Ankalaev. I always wish him the best when he fights, but I'm a Pereira fan. You know what I mean? I always tell him, brother, I'm a Pereira fan, man. You know, but I'm worried that my boy's going to knock Pereira out. And I can't say that I'm super excited for that. I can't say I'm excited to watch Alex Pereira go on a 2-fight loss streak. So I'm going to put it in the C tier because I'm dreading it. And let's be honest, the first fight was boring. Okay, outside of the one round where Magomed rocked Pereira, I think that was the second round. And the first round, which was okay, it was a little bit slow. I think Pereira's going to lose. I'm just not that hyped for it. I would be more hyped for Yair versus Ankalaev. That would be a more hype fight. But yeah, it's kind of hard to get hyped for Ankalaev just because Alex Pereira was showing us such a big skill gap between him and the other light heavyweights. I mean, look at how he schooled Yair in the rematch. Look at how he schooled Jamal Hill. He was schooling everybody. And then Magomed Ankalaev speed mogs him. And it's like, dude, if Alex Pereira was leagues ahead of the competition and Magomed is comfortably ahead of Pereira as far as speed goes and boxing goes, who the heck is going to beat Ankalaev? Like, Wildman Yuri with improved defense? I mean, sure, his defense is improved, but still, man. I just think Ankalaev's going to be champ for a while, okay? So, can't say I didn't help him. You know, I've been training with him for a while. But let's get to the next fight. Volk versus... I'm going to put this in S tier. Volk versus Evloev. I hope that we can put enough pressure on the UFC to where they snap out of it and they actually give us the fight that the fans want, that's based on merit, that has integrity. I hope that we can do that. That's why we need to continue to push back on this. If they announce Volk versus Yair, we need to spam the UFC with, we're not watching this shit. And I said that I'm going to watch Volk no matter what, but still, like, if there's a... Dude, I'm down to sit this one out just to show the UFC that we're fucking fed up with these undeserved title fights. People say that the sport's turning into boxing. It really is. Fans aren't getting the fights we want. You know, back in the day, you'd have Tyson Fury fight Deontay Wilder, and everyone's like, all right, great. He beat Deontay Wilder in the rematch, or he just won the trilogy. Now it's time for Fury versus Anthony Joshua. Wait, we got to do Fury versus Otto Wallen. We got to do Fury versus... this other old man first, and, you just got to do Joshua versus this one guy no one gives a fuck about. We just got to do it. That's literally what it's turning into at this point. You got to give Yair a shot just because we need to try to grow the sport in Mexico. It's just getting really, really annoying. And that's why this is S tier. Volk versus Mavzar would normally just be A tier. But because it would mean that we're going back in the right direction of giving fighters that deserve their title shots after long win streaks their highly deserved shot, like, I got to put this in S tier. It would mean we're not getting the shittiest fight in history, which is Volk versus Yair Rodriguez. So for that reason, I'd be really relieved. Yeah, Volk versus Mavzar, also just stylistically amazing fight. Again, we got to put the pressure on the UFC. We have to make sure that they make this next. Speaking of Mavzar Evloev, Aaron Pico and Evloev. Trash. On paper, it will be entertaining. And I think Mavzar would win, and I always love it when these Bellator fighters get these undeserved number one contenders fights. It'd be one thing if it's like 5-time defending Bellator champion in their prime coming over to the UFC with some hype that's been talking that big talk, and we want to see if they can actually prove it, but this is not one of those cases. Aaron Pico is just a regular contender in Bellator. He's not got that much hype. I just hate when the UFC is just giving these Bellator guys these undeserved number one contenders fights. And it's like, why does Mavzar have to fight someone that's never had a UFC fight in order to earn his title fight? Why are we not rewarding guys on crazy win streaks? Why are we rewarding people that have gotten finished multiple times in a row like Yair Rodriguez? And imagine if Aaron Pico wins. That's also why I hate this fight. I mean, it's 80% Mavs or Evloev wins, 85%. But if Aaron Pico wins, you know that they're going to give him a title fight. So the guy that gets one win in the UFC is going to get a title fight, but not Mavs or Evloev on a 9-fight win streak. That possibility disgusts me. So for that reason, trashed here. Disgraceful fight. Let's get on to the next one. Fiziev versus Bahamondes. I'm putting that in the B tier. Solid fight. I'm dreading it a little bit because I hate to see a guy like Fiziev, who had so much hype back in the day, where people were like, man, this guy could be a tough fight for Makhachev. He's got brick wall takedown defense, wicked striking. I hate to see a guy like Fiziev that was seen as one of the most elite technical fighters go on a bit of a skid, a losing skid. And to be honest, I always thought Fiziev was slightly overrated just because he's a little bit undersized for lightweight. And, you know, people are going to say, well, what about lighter man skill? He's a lightweight. He hasn't competed at featherweight. But I always thought he was a little bit undersized. His power was a little bit overrated. His cardio is not great. And I'm worried that Bahamondes is going to knock him out. I like Ignacio Bahamondes. I'm just not excited to see Fiziev go on a losing skid. But it should be an amazing fight in Azerbaijan. 2 strikers. I'm interested to see how Fiziev deals with the rangier reach advantage of Bahamondes. That should be really interesting, and it's a big step up for Ignacio Bahamondes. Costa versus Kopylov, sick fight. I would say this is like, you know, high B tier. Or honestly, fuck it, I'm putting that in the can't wait tier. I think that's better than any of these in the B tier. I know Holloway versus Poirier 3 on paper is amazing. I get that. I'm just not feeling crazy hyped for it right now just because it's a trilogy. And yeah, I don't love to see Poirier in another rematch trilogy, but whatever. And I'm just dreading seeing one of them lose. That's another thing. I don't want to see Poirier or Holloway lose. Costa versus Kopylov, though. I think Kopylov wins. I think that's a really tough matchup for Costa, but I just know it's going to be sick. I just know it's going to be entertaining. It's going to be a Costa, you know, he's going to prove that he's really tough, but Kopylov's going to be way too much for him. He's going to style on him. He's going to have tons of volume. It's going to be a showcase performance, but as I said, Costa's a tough out, so he should hang in there tough for 3 rounds. That's just an amazing fight. It's just going to be a barn burner. Looking forward to that. This is a mid-fight. Marc-Andre Barriault versus Shara. This is going to be on the Whittaker to Ritter card. Just the least exciting fight you could have possibly given Shara Magomedov. I know that Marc-Andre Barriault is coming off of a KO win, and he's not the most boring fighter. He's capable of being entertaining. It's just not that exciting, let's be honest. You know, let's get on to the next one. Almeida versus Volkov. I'm putting this in the trash tier. Now, if you're an Almeida fan, you love this fight. If you want justice for Volkov, you hate this fight. And I think this is probably what the UFC is going to do. Listen, it feels wrong to give Gane a title shot coming off of a loss, but like, if the UFC is going to move on from the Jones-Aspinall bullshit, they need to give Aspinall a fresh matchup against someone that he hasn't fought yet. Doing him in a rematch versus a guy he destroyed in 1 round, I just think it's hard to sell. And it's not even about hard to sell. It just doesn't have a lot of hype. You got to come out with a fight that Aspinall hasn't had. And some people may say, well, what about Almeida Aspinall? It's like Almeida lost to Curtis Blades and just got a win against who? Sergey Spivak? Like, a win over Sergey Spivak doesn't really get you a title fight. I think this is what the UFC is going to do. I hope that they give Volkov a layup. I hope that they do Volkov versus someone easier, even if it's not like a top 5 opponent. Maybe a Curtis Blades rematch could be okay. But Almeida and Volkov, if it happens, I'm dreading it because I'm rooting for Volkov to get a win. And I think he would lose this fight. I think he would get submitted. So I know his takedown defense has improved and he's gotten denser throughout the years, but I just think Almeida would be too much for him. And because I think he would get finished, I'd hate to see Volkov get finished after getting brutally robbed. So I'm putting that in the trash tier just because I'm dreading it a lot. Not because I dislike Jilton Almeida and I think he would win. I'm just dreading seeing Volkov lose after getting robbed. Let's get on to the next one. Yan versus Umar. I'm putting that in the can't wait tier. When I first thought about this fight, and I think this will be next for Yan, when I first thought about this, I wasn't so excited just because it seems like a nightmare matchup for Yan. I kind of dread Yan losing. Yan is like top 3 in my favorite fighters. He's one of my favorite fighters of all time. You know, Volk's my favorite fighter. Yan's right there. But I think I could see him winning, man. I know that Umar Nurmagomedov is a great grappler, This has nothing to do with the fact that he couldn't out-grapple Merab, but Corey Sandhagen was able to get out of those bad positions, get back up to his feet multiple times. I think Jan could do it, and this is not Merab who can shoot 50 takedowns. I think that Umar max is going to shoot maybe 15, 16, 17 takedowns. I know Umar will be super fast, and he'll be able to get the volume on his side, and he could win, but I just think it'd be a really competitive fight. No matter who wins, even if Umar wins. And I would be rooting for Jan. I think it's a winnable fight. And even if I would pick Umar, if Jan wins, it would be such an amazing win on his resume. It doesn't even matter if he's getting that belt back in this fight necessarily, but it'd be such a good win. It would do wonders for him. So, yeah, I just love this fight. Jan versus Umar, amazing stylistic matchup. Yeah, I like that. Let's get on to the next one. Adesanya versus Strickland. I'm excited for this. I know that the first fight was a little bit slow, even though Strickland had a big moment in the first round, and I was super hyped watching Strickland beat Adesanya. It was fun watching it live. If you watch it back, it's kind of boring, and I think the rematch would be a little bit boring too, but there's a storyline here. Both guys, their stocks are down, right? Adesanya coming off of 3 losses. Strickland coming off of a brutal beatdown against Dricus du Plessis. It feels kind of fresh, right? Even though these guys have already fought, because they're on loss streaks, it feels interesting again, right? I think Strickland would win. I think it would go down exactly how it did in the first fight, but maybe Adesanya would make some improvements. Maybe he'll have a big moment, but for whatever reason, man, I'm just kind of hyped for that. Let's get on to the next one. Mario Batista versus Patchy Mix. I'm putting that in the B tier. It has potential to be boring, but this is a tough fight for Patchy Mix. This is the kind of fight that hyped up Bellator fighters should be getting, right? It should be, Aaron Pico versus Lerone Murphy, something like that, or Aaron Pico versus Dan Ige, not Evloev. It should be Batista as the type of entry opponent for a high-level Bellator fighter. And Patchy Mix is higher level than Aaron Pico, and he's not even getting a higher-level fight. That's interesting, right? That Patchy Mix is the higher-level guy, and he's getting a Mario Batista, whereas Pico just walks right into a number 1 contenders fight. But this is epic. Batista, people have a bounty on this guy's head for what he did to Aldo. Listen, I know that was a boring fight. I hated to see him hold Aldo up against the fence, but at some point you got to hold Aldo responsible for continuing to get held up against the fence. It's been a problem in his game. And come on, if Batista's getting pieced up on the feet, what is he just going to accept defeat? Like, I know the way he won sucked, but I think that people are a little bit too hard on him. Either way, Batista, say what you want about him. He is a good fighter, and this is going to be a really tough fight for Patchy Mix. And hardcore fans have been hyping up Patchy Mix for a long time. I recognize that he's very good. I don't think he's going to be champion. I don't think he's as good as Jan or Umar or O'Malley. And nonetheless, I think that this is a winnable fight for him. But I'm kind of rooting. I know this is crazy. I'm kind of rooting for the UFC guys. I know that Batista stunk it up against Aldo. But I like when the UFC fighters hold it down for the UFC. I just hate to see the wannabe hardcore fans be right on these kinds of fights. Like, if a Bellator fighter loses in their debut, I'll root for them in their next fight, right? But I'm excited for this. It's the classic. Can the Bellator fighter compete in the UFC? It's not a totally undeserved number 1 contenders fight, so I don't feel salty about it at all. And of course, because Mario Batista is like public enemy number 1, it makes it more interesting as well. That should be sick. I'm excited for that. Dariush versus Moicano, putting that B tier. Excellent fight. I think this is going to be a war. I think that even if there are grappling exchanges, it's going to be really entertaining because both of these guys are amazing on the ground. The return of Beneil Dariush, he's had a lot of fights fall through, and I'm excited to see him back. And I'm excited to see Moicano, what he can do after losing to Islam Makhachev. I'm excited to see him try to get back in the win column. Let's get on to the next one. Islam Makhachev versus Jack Della Maddalena. Can't wait. I'm putting that in the can't wait tier. I can't say it's S tier. Again, I know it's just as good of a fight as Volkanovski as Evloev, but Volkanovski and Evloev would mean that we just got saved from Volkanovski versus Rodriguez. So that's part of it. But I'm a little bit salty that we're not getting Makhachev versus Topuria. So because of that, I'm saying it's can't wait. And I'm a little bit worried for Makhachev, right? I like Jack Della Maddalena. He's got one of the most entertaining styles in the UFC. I think he's maybe one of the most entertaining champions we've had in a while. But as I always say, I like when we have new GOATs. I want to see Makhachev just continue to win. And for that reason, I'm a little bit torn because I don't know who I want to win this fight. I'm kind of split down the middle here. I also think that if Makhachev wins, that Topuria fight still could be there, even though I've said that we're probably not going to get it if he wins because he won't want to cut back down to 155. But still, it's a possibility, and it would be more hype to see Makhachev versus Topuria if both guys are coming off of a win, right? And I kind of want to see Makhachev just get, the undisputed title of being the best fighter of all time, brother. But if JDM wins, it would be pretty interesting as well, because some people do expect JDM to just get submitted easily. There are some delusional fans that will not look at this as a really competitive fight. And it would be interesting to see JDM prove him wrong, right? So I'm going to say this is the can't wait tier. Amazing fight. And let's get on to the next one. Pantoja versus Kai Kara-France. It's okay, man. Listen, I like Pantoja. I think he's really entertaining, but I don't know. I can only get so hyped for a Kai Kara-France fight. I'm sorry, guys. And it's flyweight. I know the flyweights are entertaining, but I can only get so hyped. If this was Kai Kara-France versus Cap, it would be higher. But then again, what would that mean for the title picture? Would that mean Pantoja fights Royval again? That would be trashed here. I'm sorry. Even if Royval's improved. There's really no other alternative. I just can't sit here and tell you guys, well, I'm a hardcore fan, so I know that we all love Pantoja and he's super underrated and entertaining. Therefore, he must be in the S tier. No, I'm just going to be honest. I'm not that hyped for this fight. It should be awesome on the night of the fight. It should be interesting, but there will be zero trash talk because Pantoja's hardly going to speak English. He speaks English, but you get my point. He's not a big talker. It's just one of these flyweight fights. It's a good fight on paper. It's a tough matchup for Pantoja. I'm also dreading it a little bit. If I thought that Pantoja was going to destroy Kai Kara-France, I'd put it in B tier. But because I think there's a possibility that Kai Kara stuffs the takedowns and wins with low output and damaging moments, I'm putting it in the C tier because I'm kind of dreading it. Okay? It's going to be good on the night of the fight. I'm just not going to sit here and pretend that it's like this amazing matchup that I'm pacing back and forth every day thinking about. Okay? Similarly, Cap versus Royval. It's okay. It's not Cap versus Kai Kara-France, the one that we want. Elf on the Shelf versus Manel Cap, bro. But still, it should be a really sick fight. It should be a good fight. I actually am going to put this B tier. I'm not dreading this at all. Even if Royval wins, and that means we have to see a freaking fifth fight between Royval and Pantoja, it is what it is. This should be more entertaining on paper. Because it's just going to be a good old-fashioned stand-up battle. And it's the highest level fight Cap has had in some time. So, yeah, let's get on to the next one. Gaethje versus Pimblett. I'm sorry, I'm putting that in the trash tier. I know that it's entertaining on paper. When I say on paper, I mean in the cage, which is actually the opposite on paper. That's the reality. I know Anthony Smith is always he's going to dominate on paper, but in the cage, he doesn't, right? So I should say, in reality, it would be entertaining, but it's just another old man that can't fucking grapple. All right? Justin Gaethje would get submitted so easily. I know he would put up a good fight on the feet, but Paddy Pimblett would swarm him. He would mix in the takedowns. Gaethje's not this one-punch KO guy. He's not in his prime anymore. He's old, hobbly Justin Gaethje, who still got it a little bit, but, let's be honest, dude. He fucking barely won against Rafael Fiziev. And he almost got triangled in the first round. He just fell into it. I don't want to see Paddy Pimblett get a title fight without beating someone in their fucking prime. I'm sorry. That's what it is. If we knew that there was no chance that Paddy Pimblett would get a title fight off of Justin Gaethje, I would put this in the fucking B tier. But it's just going to be, people gaslighting us into thinking that, Paddy's the real dude. He just submitted Justin, the highlight. Gaethje. We know he's going to go out there and submit him. This isn't even prime Gaethje. Okay? And he's going to have a dominant performance. And if you do not say, okay, Patty's the most undeserving guy and I can't wait to see him be champ, you're the fucking villain. So, you know what I want to see, though, is Paddy Pimblett versus Arman Tsarukyan. All right, Arman called out Paddy Pimblett. That's the fight I want to see. I know that people that love Paddy Pimblett are terrified of this fight. And I'm not just saying I can't wait for this fight. This is not, I just want to see Pimblett lose. Oh, Lucas just wants to see Pimblett lose. That's why he hates the Gaethje fight. No, dude. I just don't want to see Pimblett get a fucking title shot in the lightweight division when you've got people like Max Holloway that is probably going to be coming off of 2 wins that destroyed Justin Gaethje on a multiple fight win streak. You know, you have Holloway there. You got Arman there who just beat Oliveira that's been unbeaten for years. You have more deserving contenders. You have Dan Hooker on a win streak. Like, I don't want to see Pimblett go out there and get a title fight against old heads. It's that simple. I want Pimblett to fight someone in their prime. Fuck it. If it's Dan Hooker, I know Dan Hooker's not smack dab in the middle of his prime, but nonetheless, I wouldn't mind seeing Dan Hooker versus Pimblett because Hooker at least still has somewhat of that prime ability, right? Even Poirier. Poirier is a more formidable grappler. He's a more dangerous fighter than Gaethje. Okay, he's slicker on the feet than Gaethje, and he's a much better grappler. Even that would be better. But because you have people like Poirier, Holloway, Arman, Hooker, and you're giving him the easiest one, I just can't stand that shit, dude. And you know that would be a number 1 contenders fight for either guy. Apparently, Justin Gaethje's pissed that he's not getting a title fight. He was livid about the UFC booking Oliveira versus Topuria. First off, it should have been Topuria versus Arman, but I'm hyped for Oliveira. Oliveira was the second best choice, and it's a great fight. Gaethje is livid. You know that he's not going to let the UFC hear the end of it, and you know that the UFC loves Justin Gaethje. They're going to promise him a title fight, and they're going to promise Pimblett a title fight if either guy wins this one. That's why Pimblett versus Arman is so important. Please take the Arman fight. And if you are going to sit there and tell me, well, Pimblett would get destroyed. Okay, well, that's even more of a reason for me not to want to see him fight for the fucking title. I don't want to see the 4th best fighter in the lightweight division fight Ilia Topuria just because it would sell out an arena. I want to see the best fight the best. Okay? If the UFC was doing the best versus the best 99% of the time, I would be more okay with Pimblett and Topuria having a title fight, even if Pimblett doesn't necessarily stand out as the best fighter out of all the contenders. I'd be more okay with it. But because these days, it seems that most of the time, 90% of the time, it's fighters getting undeserved title fights and guys on the hard-earned 10-fight win streaks getting left in the dust because that's what we're actually getting these days. I don't want to see another one of them. Okay, I don't want to see another undeserved title fight. And there's no room for these Mickey Mouse fucking titles. Okay? I want to see merit return. And Arman is the rightful number 1 contender. Okay, I can understand the UFC not wanting to give him a title fight upon immediately after he pulled out of the Makhachev fight and jeopardized the event. But at least give him a number 1 contenders fight. He at least deserves that again, right? And if Pimblett really wants to fight for the belt, fight someone in their prime. If he beats Arman, everybody would say, okay, he deserves the shot. He just beat the boogeyman of all the grapplers, the guy that's the most well-rounded out of all the contenders that just beat Oliveira. Nobody would say anything, okay? If he beats Justin Gaethje, people are going to be salty about him getting to fight for a belt. That's the one problem with Pimblett's career. It's that you just know that they're giving him the easiest route ever. Sean O'Malley at least had to fight Petr Yan. And we can still say that they kind of rushed O'Malley, right? He went from fighting Raulian Paiva to a no contest with Pedro Munoz where a fight didn't even occur because there was an eye poke and nothing happened in that fight, to Yan. At least he had to fight Yan. And we were saying in the build-up to that, well, if O'Malley beats Yan, he deserves to fight for the belt. Now, it was a robbery, but nonetheless, if he had gone out there and decisively beat Yan, I mean, forget that. Just having a close fight with Yan, it proved he was legit. I want to see Pimblett prove that he is a top 3 contender. And destroying Justin Gaethje doesn't prove it. Because guess what? Arman would destroy Justin Gaethje. Max Holloway destroyed Justin Gaethje. A lot of people are going to destroy Justin Gaethje despite the fact that he's a good fighter. You get my point. We need to see the best fight the best. We need to go back to people on long win streaks, having beaten the undoubted, number 2, number 1 contender. Those are the guys that should be fighting for the belt next. So for that reason, Pimblett versus Gaethje is in the trash tier, and Pimblett versus Arman is in the can't wait tier. Fuck it. It's in the S tier because that would be a step in the right direction. And I think Arman would win. But you know what? What? Well, that means that Pimblett's never going to get a title. Okay, well, if he's not good enough to fight for a title, then he shouldn't be fighting for it to begin with, right? It's not that, Pimblett's entertaining and we all love Pimblett, therefore he must fight for the belt, right? And you got to give him the easiest path ever. Like, yes, there's room for operating like a business in the UFC, but they've been doing that so much, even though their promotion sucks these days. But as far as like giving people title fights just based on the fact that they're a little bit more popular, right? And they have more mass appeal, they've been doing that so much that we're losing what made the UFC great to begin with, which is the best fight the best, okay? So yeah, let's get on to Topuria versus Oliveira. Can't wait. If you were to ask me before the Belal Muhammad Jack Della Maddalena fight, I would say it's C tier, but now that we know it's happening and the closer it gets, I am getting excited. Oliveira will hit a lot harder than Max Holloway and Volkanovski. Yes, he'll be slower, but nonetheless, I have a feeling that Oliveira is going to go out there looking pretty speedy this time. And I have a feeling he's going to light Topuria up early. And it should be interesting. So I can't wait for this fight. The closer it gets, I'm getting more hyped. Okay? There's a chance Oliveira can get the upset there, even though I think Topuria will win. And I'm getting a little bit nervous, okay? Because I think Topuria might get KO'd and his legendary streak might come to a halt. Sandhagen title fight, I'm going to put this in the B tier, okay? I don't think he would beat Merab, and I don't think he would beat O'Malley, but I've been wanting to see those fights for a long time, and I think he'd put up a good fight. And I'm a fan of Sandhagen. I want to see him fight for the undisputed belt for the first time. I'm going to put that in the B tier. I'm not going to sit here and say, like, oh, I'm just bouncing off the walls with excitement to watch Sandhagen fight for a belt, but I'd like to see him get that shot. So I'd be pretty excited to see Sandhagen fight for the title next. Hill versus Roundtree. I'm going to put that in the B tier. I don't know who wins this one. It's like a 50-50 fight in my opinion. I think Hill might win, actually. I think people might be sleeping on Hill a little bit. A lot of people are going to favor Roundtree just because Hill just got KO'd, but I think Yuri's a lot more dangerous than Roundtree. And I think that even though Hill got dropped and knocked out, he's going to be durable in this one, and he's still going to hit pretty hard. I think he might KO Roundtree. I'm going to put this in the B tier. Should be a really solid fight. I'll say can't wait just because I think in reality, not on paper, in reality, that will be an epic war. Usman versus Buckley. I can't wait. And you know why I can't wait? Even if this is not the best version of Usman, I still think Kamaru is going to show a pretty good version of himself. I am dreading it a little bit because I think Buckley's going to win. And I don't know. I just don't like seeing these old legends lose by the skin of their teeth just because they're slightly older, right? But the reason why I'm really hyped for this is because I think there's going to be some trash talk. I think Kamaru Usman, he's been getting salty about Belal Muhammad. They have a beef, right? And Usman's back training, and he's back in the mix, man. And I think he's going to try to sun Joaquin Buckley in the build-up to this. I think Buckley's going to be trash-talking. He's going to be calling Usman an old head. I hope Buckley says wobblestone, cobblestone knees. I hope they have a fucking press conference for this. Or a face-to-face. UFC, please make a face-to-face. Because I know Buckley is the kind of fighter to be tuned into MMA YouTube to the point to where he knows the wobblestone, cobblestone knees thing. If you're watching this and you know Joaquin Buckley, please tell him if he gets into an exchange with Usman to say, man, shut your cobblestone, wobblestone knees ass up. All right? I want to see that, dude. I want to see him mention wobblestone, cobblestone. This is the last chance we have to see someone clown Usman for his cobblestone knees. But either way, Namajunas versus Maverick. I'm putting that in the S tier. The return of Rose Namajunas. Co-main event, UFC Atlanta. That's going to be epic. Rose Namajunas, what was she called? Thug Nasty? Or that's Bryce Mitchell. What do they call her? Thug Rose, man. I am already scared thinking about this one. Like, I have goosebumps thinking about this one. I'm going to be getting nightmares a night out because I'm just going to feel the freaking air get colder as we're 24 hours out from Rose Namajunas' tough cookie thug walkout. She's going to be so scary on the way to the octagon. And I'm going to be thinking, oh, she would whoop my ass, bro. Dude, that's a woman you don't want to mess with, man. So I'm terrified. I actually am a little bit scared. Miranda Maverick is just a savage too, man. That's going to be a savage fight. So I'm putting that in the S tier. No, I'm kidding. That's going to be a boring... Let's be honest, guys. I thought about putting Shevchenko here, but, she's probably not going to fight for the rest of the year. And for that reason, I'm not going to clown her. But I am feeling like we're in for a 3-round stink fest. Rose Namajunas, I think she's up a weight class. She used to have more power in the lighter weight class. Now that she's moved up, her power is not translating as well. Because I think the 10-pound weight jumps in women's MMA, it's like a lot more for them, right? Like those 10 pounds is the equivalent of a guy jumping up 20 pounds. So she just doesn't have her knockout ability that she used to have. And her fights have been getting a little bit more slow, a little bit more stale. It's going to be a late night. It's going to be 11:30. We would have just seen a great KO or a great war in the feature fight. It's now 11:45. Bruce Buffer is announcing Namajunas versus Maverick, and 11:48 the fight starts, and we're watching that for a good 20 minutes with the minute in between rounds, the judges having to collect their scorecards at the end. It's going to be a 20-minute midnight boring fight. Yeah, man. I can't say I'm that hyped for it. I know it's probably going to be a boring fight, okay? And it's going to be a co-main event. You're going to fall asleep. Next up, Tom Aspinall versus Gane. I'm putting a B tier. I would be happy that we finally get to see Tom Aspinall return. I'd be happy to see Tom Aspinall beat a guy that he's never fought before. It would be somewhat interesting to see if Gane can have, some moments early on with the volume, and see if he can make it out of the first round. Because if he would make it out of the first round, he could be somewhat competitive on the feet. But I think Aspinall would destroy Gane, and you can't get that hyped for it. But I'll put it B tier just because I think we'd get a nice Tom Aspinall KO. He would get the undisputed title, so it'd be good to see. But I'm not going to sit here and act like this is such a competitive fight where I just can't wait for it, man. And it would also mean we don't get to see Aspinall versus Jones, but I already know that we'll never see that fight. Whittaker versus DeRitter. Can't wait, man. There's a chance DeRitter wins and sort of ends Robert Whittaker's prime. There is a chance. And he fulfills the prophecy of being Dricus du Plessis 2.0. I know Bedtime's talking about him being a future champ. And based on vibes, I think he might actually work his way up to the belt. Like, no one believes that he will, or some people believe he will, but they're just basing it off of vibes and fluke ability, just like Dricus had back in the day. So you could kind of see it happening. Dricus paved the way. Dricus walked so Rainer DeRitter could run, and now there's a chance Whittaker loses. But another reason why I can't wait is because I think Whittaker's going to school him. I think that people are looking at the Bo Nickel fight, a guy that just doesn't have the grit, that just has a non-existent, totally baseless, like there's just no foundation to his striking. It absolutely sucks. He looks like a deer in headlights, a baby deer in headlights on the feet. Dricus du Plessis, I'm sorry, I'm confusing DeRitter and du Plessis now. Like, Bo Nickel is just so far removed from the skill level and experience level and comfortability of Robert Whittaker. I know Whittaker is one of these guys that can get bullied by a grappler, but still, Whittaker knows how to mix it up. Like, he's been in high-level fights, dude. He has the grit. Okay, I know that he's not the grittiest fighter of all time, but Whittaker is tough on the feet. Like, he's not going to go away. And Rainer DeRitter piecing up Bo Nickel, who has a non-existent striking game, who has overrated MMA grappling, it's going to be so much easier to do that than to try to walk in with these flimsy knees and flimsy punches and elbows against speedy Gonzalez, explosive Robert Whittaker, who, before he got finished by Hamzat, remember, there wasn't a striking exchange with Whittaker and Hamzat. Remember, going into the Hamzat fight, he was coming off of a KO over Ikram Aleskarov, which has aged well. Ikram just got himself a KO. Robert Whittaker's boxing has improved. We saw it in the Costa fight. We just saw it in the Ikram fight. We didn't see him strike at all against Khamzat, so just because he got finished by the most explosive grappler in the middleweight division who doesn't give you an opportunity to strike, like, we're going to see him strike with De Ridder, and I think he's going to expose De Ridder on the feet and make him look slow and silly. And I think that Whitaker wasn't able to stay alive against Khamzat. He will be able to against De Ridder, okay? And I think he's going to win, and we're going to see a classic Bobby Knuckles win, and it's going to do even more for his already great resume. Dricus du Plessis versus Khamzat, I'm going to put that in the can't wait tier. I am dreading it a little bit. Listen, I like Khamzat. I'm not going to lie. He's lost a little bit of his hype just because of how inactive he is. He hardly ever fights, and it's like you sort of forget that he's even someone that we're supposed to take seriously as a fighter sometimes, just because like we never even have him fight. He fights once a year, which kind of sucks. It's holding him back big time. And also it's holding him back from legacy, because when it's all said and done, he'll have like 3 more fights. But either way, I'm also dreading it just because I'm really liking Dricus du Plessis as champ these days. And I don't want to see Dricus lose the belt. I want Dricus to hold the belt, you know? I'm a fan of Khamzat. Him as champion would be okay, but then again, he'd be so inactive. That's the thing that would suck about Khamzat as champ. He would fight once a year, and that would just hold up the middleweight division. Whereas if Dricus remains champ and he beats Chimaev in August, you know he's going to be back in January, which is like, you know, he's not the most active champion ever. It's not like Adesanya fighting every 3 or 4 months in 2021 and 22, but nonetheless, a couple fights a year is good for me if the alternative is Khamzat fighting once every year and a half. And also, as I said, I just really like Dricus as champ. I think he's super entertaining. I think the build-ups to his fights are really good. He's got a great style. He shows us the striking. He shows us the grappling. Khamzat's entertaining as well. He's obviously a really entertaining grappler to watch. And he's got that aura nonetheless. But I kind of dread this fight a little bit because I feel like Khamzat might just submit him. And it might be a little bit anticlimactic to see Khamzat just get him out of there in the first minute before Dricus has a chance to get going in the fight. Because Khamzat has that ability. So... And it wouldn't even be like, oh, wow, Khamzat has all this aura. I can't wait to see him fight. It's like you'll see him again in 2027. So that would kind of deaden the division a little bit, in my opinion. But yeah, that is it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Until next time.